Well, some kind of interesting news. Folks, you may recall that late last summer, early fall, I was down in the around the Waiparous Creek, Trout Unlimited Canada, doing a significant amount of work on replacing a culvert. And then just a little further upstream from that, they were basically redesigning how one of these small tributaries would flow into the Waiparous, creating some dams and building up sort of a stream flow like banks and that kind of thing. So it was very interesting to me to kind of follow up and see how things have gone over the winter months. And now we're into the spring runoff. And to bring us up to date, a real pleasure to welcome Angela Ten, who is a managing biologist with Trout Unlimited Canada. Angela, I know that you've been down to the site this spring, I guess just at the 10,000 foot level. What did you see? And are you happy with the results of all the hard work you folks put in last year?
Yeah, so what we saw was just a whole lot of water. So we went down like about mid to late April, and by then a lot of the snow was melting. So the snow melt was all running down the creek, and the beaver dam analogs that we built, all three of them were full to the top with water. So that's more water than I've ever seen in that creek, which was really great to see.
So what will this do, I guess? How does it actually improve the habitat for fish, which is the ultimate aim here?
Yeah, so I mean, the very obvious connection is there's more water, so there's more habitat for fish. So, in some spots we couldn't get a depth measurement, but I'm sure if I jumped in, I'd be into my chin. And so it's gotten much, much deeper than before. Before, I think the highest I've seen the creek was more or less this or more, like maybe a little more. So that's a significant depth increase, which is always good to see. Another thing that we can't really see with our eyes, but we're sure is happening, is that the groundwater aquifers have probably been filled somewhat. So with all this water that's being held back from behind these beaver dams, um, it just kind of it'll slowly soak into the ground and recharge our water table, and also bring the water table up slowly as more water gets like kind of like recharging this like big pool of groundwater that's happening. So,
Yeah,
and
I
in
get.
terms of, yeah, it's going.
I sorry about that. I
Yeah.
guess the ultimate goal here was to retain the water, because prior to this, it was a pretty flat area, so you'd get the big runoff, but then that water would be gone. There was no real flow to it. It just kind of dissipated across sort of a wider plain.
Yeah, completely. So if you can imagine, like without these beaver dam analogs there, all the water would have just gone right down. It just would have gone right down the creek, and nothing would have been held back and slowed down. Like the water would have been there, but it all would have been deposited into Waiparous Creek eventually and just kind of lost from the system instead of being held back and recharging all of our valuable aquifers.
Now, of course, a little bit further downstream from this area, you did a significant repair replacement, actually, of some older culverts, and that plays a very important role as well as it provides fish passage coming out of the Waiparous to go up this tributary.
Yeah, totally. So we replaced a set of five hanging culverts that was on a road crossing a while back with a big open bottom arch. I want to say it was about 2 meters tall in terms of like from the bottom of the ground to the top of the arch. And yeah, we went to check on that as well, and it's like functioning as intended. It's working great. It was kind of hard to tell because this system, or at least the section of the creek that has the culvert in it, has a lot of groundwater flow. So there was a lot of ice, and the ice was actually up. I want to say like over a meter of ice had accumulated, but it's fine. The culvert was still functioning, and water was still trickling down.
So, of course, this area that you folks went into last year, Waiparous, is certainly known for West Slope cutthroat trout and bull trout. Um,
Mhm.
And during your evaluation of that stream prior to construction, you did come across some West Slope cutthroat trout finger lanes. Uh, Angela, do you have a sense of how long it will take before you see either bull trout or cutthroat trout return in any kind of numbers?
I mean, the site looks super promising so far, and especially with the BDAs, which are upstream, holding back so much water and providing so much habitat. We're pretty optimistic that we'll see some changes um, this year. So, like a year after the project, we're hoping to go back and do a couple fish sampling surveys this spring. And fingers crossed, we're really hoping that we see some bull trout upstream. Yeah, we don't think it'll take much for them to move up because before they wanted to, they were kind of in that pool and waiting, and now the passage is clear. So we think we'll see some good bounce
It,
back.
in terms of habitat, usable habitat, what do you think overall that this project has provided the fish in terms of, is it are we talking a couple kilometers further up this small creek than they were able to get up to before?
Yeah, so when the culverts were hanging and it was a fish passage barrier, effectively about 3 kilometers of habitat upstream was isolated from the downstream habitat. So in replacing these culverts and reconnecting this habitat, we have effectively added an additional 3 kilometers of fish habitat to the downstream population. And for the upstream population, it's added the entire rest of the Waiparous Creek and Ghost River watershed to their possible habitat.
All right. We'll leave it there. Angela, thanks so much and congratulations on a well-engineered, executed plan that I know you and many others were involved with. I know I spent a couple of days down there and just had really enjoyed filming you guys doing the work and continued success with this project. And we'll check back in with you maybe later this summer to see what the results are turning in.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for covering the project. It brought a lot of eyes to our work, and we're really grateful for that.